Alright everybody, welcome back to Haruna, episode 13. 13 episodes into a series, guys. 13, unlucky 13. This ride is themed to Halloween. Alright, yeah, that was... Alright, moving on. I'm so excited to show you guys what I've done in the past few weeks, as the MACK ride Stryker coaster is complete, as well as all of its theming. So yeah, before we get into it, I want to remind you, leave a like and drop a comment. Let me know what you guys are thinking. And yeah, let's get into the video. Alright, so the first area we're going to go over is the entrance into the Japanese area. So as we left off last episode, you can see there's been quite a bit of an overhaul, to say the least. One of the main things I'm going to be doing with this episode is sort of leaving the background music off and turning up the in-game sounds, because one thing you'll notice is I played a lot with sound designs in this area of the park, and with the placement of speakers and kind of just the ambient noise speakers as well. There's just a lot of sounds to be heard, and for that reason, we're not going to have any background music for the most part, unless it's pretty quiet. But entering where we left off, got some pretty majestic music playing as you come across this huge Japanese monastery. Now we enter our first bit of new content, the Japanese Torii Gate. I was pretty stumped on what actually goes on this gate, but it turns out that the kanji that goes on the gate is generally just a label for the gate. So these gates are placed in front of shrines, meaning there's going to be a shrine behind this gate somewhere, and this is the path to get to it. And then the name of the shrine is generally on the gate. So I had to do a bit of research. I had no idea about any of this. So this means Haru, and this bottom one means Na. So together it's Haruna. But what I didn't know is that the translations for the kanji can have different meanings. So the first translation I found on Google Translate actually was Haru meaning spring and Na meaning vegetable. So I was going to have a shrine that said spring vegetable in my park. Luckily, I had someone double check my work, and we saw that it was in fact wrong, and changed it to this Haru, which means sun, and this Na, which means moon. So sun and moon shrine sounds a whole lot better than what's it called? Than spring vegetable shrine. And yeah, that is why this area is now called Sun and Moon Shrine. I can change it later for right now, because I don't think that rolls off the tongue as well as everything else. So yeah, entering the Sun and Moon Shrine, Sun and Moon Plaza. Now we're going to get into the entrance plaza for the roller coaster. If you guys recall from the intro, I said this ride was themed to Halloween, and that is partly true. It is still on theme of the current season, that being Halloween, but it's not quite Halloween themed. So you can see from the name, let me go ahead and pause. Oh, yeah. So you can see, I've gone with the name Hysteria, and fair warning, the image is a bit scary. So if you're younger or likely to have sort of nightmares, my apologies in advance. But the theme of this ride is to Junji Ito, and I've titled it similarly to his series on Netflix. If you guys have seen Junji Ito Maniac, Tales of the Macabre, here we have kind of a play off that. We have Junji Ito's Hysteria Ride of the Macabre. And then the logo was made on the AI image generator, and then I had to fix it up in Photoshop because it never wants to spell the words correctly. And it also featured some symbolism that is kind of frowned upon. So for that reason, I had to edit it, and it looks a bit crazy, but that's kind of on theme, so I kind of like it. So yeah, here is the ride sign, as well as the plaza. As you can see, I've got a different type of landscaping that I've started doing in this area of the park. In older areas of the park, I would have just plants like this, sort of spamming them randomly. But in the Japanese area, I've opted for a cleaner and I guess more manually placed sort of look, like a Japanese garden. And leading into the plaza, it's got several elevation changes, and immediately you can see how my style has drastically improved from this part of the park. I almost feel more comfortable building now than I did earlier. So we will go down the plaza. Got a few staircases. This area just has a restaurant, as well as the outdoor seating area. Lots of plants, lots and lots of plants. A path interaction with the roller coaster, and a simple bridge that goes over the second launch down this little walkway to more outdoor seating in the heart of the coaster. So you've got coaster going all around you, and the restrooms for this area. So that just about rounds out the plaza. We're gonna head back up. Did add handrails. And moving down the street, I'll get back to the coaster later. Moving down the street, we've got another building. We've got souvenirs. Hat's fantastic. They don't have swing signs, so I just put the Pip Shot one there. And you can see my attempt at Japanese architecture. It almost looks like I'm spamming wood and windows, which I kind of am. And here we have the secondary plaza. So first I will get into the Street Fox coffee because it's just a bit generic. And we got some elevated seating up here, as well as some planters, just kind of add some, elevation change and some Z-axis intrigue to the build. And right here in this empty spot, earlier in my series, I believe episode, was it 4 or 5? It was a very long episode. I was getting like maybe 40 views on my episode, so I was like, okay, if anyone's really watching this, comment the word pineapple and I'll name something in my park after you. And someone did. So this is for Jeffrey. I have Jeffrey's bubble tea. So we've got an actual menu for a bubble tea shop, and the logo I made in image editor or image generator. Just threw it on there. Jeffrey's bubble tea. And if I hit play, got some steam coming out of it, and it's just a simple little stand. Yeah, that's something that's not like a building as a shop, something more portable. Always wanted to add some carts. And then around this side of the coaster, you can see this humongous support structure. This was inspired by DC Rivals, the non-inverting loop. It's got 2 of these structures on each side of it, very MACK Rides-esque, and I knew I had to have that in my park. So that's this side of the Immelman. And then this is not going to look like this when it's done. I just wanted to have the path wrap around with the fencing so you can kind of get a vibe of how it's going to feel. And that pretty much rounds out this area. now we're gonna go over the coaster. So obviously a lot has changed since last time. We finally got our entrance buildings here, and I know I said I was gonna have a giant covered pavilion sort of food court here, but it just didn't work out that way with the whole landscaping and the coaster going right here, so I had to switch it up a little bit. I think I will have a covered pavilion somewhere else, just not here. And that's fine, because that takes away from the sight lines. You know, you want to see the coaster going in and out of the buildings and weaving in and out of the trees, and if there was a big covered building here, you wouldn't see any of that. So yeah, let's take a minute to really absorb these sounds of hysteria. So the thought process of naming the ride Hysteria was, by definition, it's sort of like a sensory overload, right? Like you're overwhelmed with all these senses and emotions, and then you're hysterical. You're in a state of hysteria, and that's pretty much what this ride does with all of its, special effects and sounds and screens and all of that. So let's get into the entrance. I don't want to walk through the queue just because I'm going to have a separate episode, a Halloween special, where I go through the queue and actually have a POV of the ride. So be on the lookout for that. But I don't want to spoil what's in the station. But we will talk about the outside. So the entrance building, it's kind of like 2 dormitories. I wanted this area of the park to be sort of like a campus for like a monastery. So we have our main monastery building over here where the station is, and then we've got these 2 dorms, as well as like the common area, and then like the studies and libraries and all that. And then there's like a wall going around that we'll get to. So yeah, we'll head into the dorms. The left and right dorm, they're just lockers for riders to put their stuff in, because this coaster is it was heavily inspired by Velocicoaster and stuff like that. You have to have these modern rides, they make you put all your stuff in lockers. So got lockers here and here. They're all free to use, of course. But we'll head into the queue. Lots of different sounds. It is very much horror themed, if you couldn't tell. Headed into the queue. It's just very immersive. I think it's safe for me to say that everything you see here, it was actually like 3 times more work and how it appears, just because of the sheer amount of vertical layers. I mean, what do we have? We have the water here, we've got all the mist effects, the ground level vegetation, then we've got what are these called? Retaining walls, and then we've got planters, my attempt at Japanese gardens, and then a level up from that, I guess the queue, and the ride supports, make sure they're not interacting with anything in a dangerous way. And we've got the track itself, and it's going over and under itself so many times in this area, and rotating in weird ways where you don't want any clearance issues where the riders could potentially reach their arms out and hit anything. So you have to make sure there's that clearance. And then, like I said, again, there's lots of sounds, different sounds going on, lots of different lighting going on, and then the different architectural styles. So I don't want to show what's in line just quite yet, so I'll just give you a sneak peek of that. But I wanted the line for the coaster to be sort of like a haunted house maze, like a Fright Fest attraction. I wanted that to be an attraction in of itself before you're then seated on the roller coaster. And the line comes through here, Goes up on this side of the station. Ah, love the music. Alright, and skipping all of that, we'll go to the exit. Oh, I need to change this sign. I was originally going to call this ride Nue, which is a kind of Japanese beast of folklore. So that explains the color palette of the ride. How it starts off green, then turns into this dark red, and then later on it turns navy blue, and then beige. Right, it's got 4 different colors because the Nue consists of 4 different animals. It's like the Japanese equivalent of the chimera, but it's a bit different. Let me turn the sounds back on now. And here we have the gift shop. So I did update my style of gift shop. So I've got some display cases and a bunch of stands for the knickknacks and souvenirs and whatnot. So I did go back and update. Okay, that's a bit loud. I did go back and update my other gift shop for the other roller coaster. So I just made these assets and put them over there. And we've got our ride photos where they can be purchased right off the exit of the ride. And then let's head across the bridge. So we've got the coaster theme music going. Covered bridge, which goes through the corkscrew. And then back into the entrance plaza. And overall, I'm very happy with that sort of loop. The riders of this ride are just taking on an entire adventure. And then one small detail I forgot to note is that I updated the entrance. So now we've got some, a ride description, the rules, and the height stick. So comparatively with the operator, you've got to be about 48 inches to ride. So working on this, especially this launch room, was a bit of a pain. Not a pain. There were learning pains, growing pains, because I had never done anything with sequencers ever in this game. And Planet Coaster 2 is about to come out, and I'm just now touching the sequencers. But you see, I've got a bunch of different sounds going on, and only 2 sequencers. So this is all for sounds, and this one's all for the screens which are around the launch. But you'll see in the second launch that I've gotten a lot better at making these. So making my first one, I had to label everything because I was just overwhelmed by all the pieces and how to link everything. So that is the first launch room. And then if we make our way down the track, we have our second launch room. And you can see there's a lot less speakers and more sequencers because I was a bit smarter about how I implemented this. Let me look at this sequencer. So we have launch 2 and have main, and then just each one, launch 2, pre-screens, pre-sounds, and I'm just looping the screens over and over. And trippy sounds, trippy screens. I've just made everything super modular, so you can kind of see my programming background in that when I sort of implemented this second launch. And this one's in a sort of shed. I guess I'll go through the theming. So we've already seen that part of the coaster in last episode. So continuing, it just goes up next to the station, and I guess we'll take a look at the support structure here. I honestly was pretty stumped for a while on how I was going to do this, because I knew I wanted something like this for the vertical part, because we don't have that much clearance with the road being right here. And then I had to continue the sort of spine style supports and connect it on both sides. And this support is probably the most wonky support I've done for the whole ride. It's a big concrete support column through the middle of the station, but it's kind of what I had to do because this shoots up out of the station and goes over everything. So it just had to be this way. And there's good clearance with the coaster going right here, so shouldn't be any issues. And then there's enough space for the loose article netting frames to capture anything falling in this area. And then the supports sort of just follows the spine of the track. This coaster has a lot more frequent supports than the last one. And that's just how Mock Rides does their rides. I feel like they have lots of supports for some reason. And I'm not complaining. It was a lot of work, but it looks really good. So in the end, it was worth it. I'm happy. And then I had to make some supports work here because I've got two tracks going underneath. So everything's sort of connected. Going over the entrance. And then we've got the protection frames again, because there's path underneath. Swoops in between. And enters the second launch. These doors don't open and close. They're just, I have them set to open because I like the look of them open like that. And there's one on the other side as well. One thing I will say is something that you'll see in the POV video, that this launch is similar to the first launch, and I did not originally want that to be the case, but as I said in last video, it's impossible to do a swing launch in this game using this track type. And I would have used the other track type, except that track type has trains that you can't switch out. So it'd be stuck using a Premier kind of train, a Premier Rides train. And even if that was the case, I couldn't even use the switch track onto the vertical spike to do the swing launch. So it's just not ideal and sort of the limit of Planet Coaster 1. But I'm excited for Planet Coaster 2. So we'll see if this is possible. But you'll see the ride just comes to a kind of quick stop before waiting and launching again. But just know that when you see the POV, the ride is supposed to kind of continue, not make it all the way up, launch backwards, and then have the effects go on before it goes up the spike, comes back again before different effects finally allow the ride to complete the layout. And then again, we have more buildings sort of surrounding this area. It's kind of like a town square. You've just got buildings all around. Really love the feel here. I will say, these bits of coaster are pretty close to each other. Like dangerously close. But I've tried to move them for hours, and I figured it was like, it's very diminishing returns. So, because I already placed most of the stuff, so I was like, I'm just gonna keep it, it's fine. Because this is not real life. So yeah, we have our Immelman here, our signature Immelman, and we have the track having a support beam going right through the bridge. It's kind of broken here. Gives that sort of like monster destroying a city effect, but I didn't really want to have that over the whole area, just right here. And we got a support beam connecting to this tower as well as the main support structure and our bell tower. It was going to be a gong at first to be on theme, but I think the bell just looks better. I tried to make a gong, it was horrendous. So yeah. Okay. Then, like I said, we got this big DC Rivals inspired support structure, which goes underneath into this area, and this is where the ride photos are taken. Then we have a massive corkscrew, and these two towers have fire effects that shoot out as the coaster goes around it. And then we have a trim brake because this part was kind of too fast. So we have a trim brake as the ride goes into this ejector hill, and then cold mist gets blown at the riders as they go over it. And then this kind of high positive G turn as it goes around. Then we've got some splashdown pieces, so as the ride goes across, we'll have 3 splashes before entering the mid-course brake run. And I know it looks a bit odd being one of the tallest points in the ride and just looking like a shed. But I think I had to do it like this because the MCBRs do need a way for people to get down. So I've got this whole thing covered, and then I've got a kind of hatch and ladder system that brings people down in a safe way, down to this tower, and then down to here, which brings them to the transfer track / switch track mechanism here, and then they could safely get to the station. I need to add more catwalk here. Get to the station from maintenance area, and then several doors to lead them back into the accessible park area. So now we'll look at the ride from the sea perspective. Like I said, there's a massive monastery where the coaster station is, and then we've got a wall. Lag spike. We've got a wall going around, and there's these watchtowers at every point. This one has the hole for the water to go through, and then more watchtowers, sort of just rounding out the area like that. So that's all like sort of one area of the park. And I try to throw these like red railings around to sort of make a cohesive look around the park. I've got them here on this bridge here, this octagon for the restrooms, and this bridge here. What was that noise? That noise is very creepy, so I did a good job choosing that. Holy crap. So the station building is pretty big. This is where the gift shop is. And then I think I made it this big because I wanted like an unloading station, but again, you can't do that in Planet Coaster 1, so we'll just have to wait and see whether you can do that in Planet Coaster 2. Yeah, sort of this bridge with a massive arch. It's very inspired by some Chinese architecture I've seen. And I know this is a Japanese area, but I had to do something that worked here because there was like no way I was gonna have this able to be supported with any vertical beams here, with the coaster going right underneath, the queue going underneath, and then another part of the coaster going underneath. Oh yeah, the queue also goes underneath here, so it's just not a lot of dead space. And there's a way to access the the station from the queue here as well. So there's just lots of layers to this, I think. All right, let's get this ride running. Lots of noises going on in there. I don't want to spoil, but let me pause, and we'll talk about the triggers for the ride next. So hit play. I'll open up the triggers. So this one has 22 triggers. Oh, I spoiled it. Well, you'll see it anyway, but as you can see, several trigger points. And we'll take a look at the park at... We'll do sunset. So we'll look at these triggers here. So we have launch room, which starts the whole launch sequencer. Sequence 2 is lights off, and let's look at it at nighttime for this part. Okay, so as you see all these red lights and everything, and as the ride enters the dark ride section, we'll check out the lights. It goes dark. So that's how you know there's a ride in the launch track, when it goes dark. And the lights don't turn on until this point up here, where it's also joined by some noises. And the lights are back on. And then you see all this with the electricity and the fire. One thing I did change is that all 3 fire spouts are not on every time. It's just the 2 that the coaster goes in between. So this side will have these 2, and going in will have these 2. And then nothing until we get here. We have the launch 2. It's got 2 triggers for that. And I don't want to spoil launch 2 at all. But it is very loud. You can hear it from up here. For the bell. Nice. And then our photos, our ride photos, and then the 2 fire spouts for the corkscrew. So there's just a lot going on. The mist, the water splashdowns. And then we've got this danger area with an alarm. Before finally corkscrewing back into the station. And then, let's see. Yeah, 21 plays these clock noises. Oh, I don't want to spoil anything else. I've just spoiled a little bit of the sounds. And then when the ride enters the station, we have a little bit of ride announcements, which I'll just play. So it's like, you know, please exit to the right, blah 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 blah, you know. So yeah, we go to the triggers, and 22 trigger points, 171 triggered items throughout this whole thing, which is nuts, to say the least. That's why it took so long. But I am happy with the look and the feel, which was very important for this. This was kind of a no expenses spared type of attraction. Unlimited budget. sandbox. So yeah, keep in mind the Junji Ito theme as the POV video is released sometime in the next few weeks, because it is heavily inspired, or the cue is heavily inspired by the Junji Ito kind of manga series, with some of my favorite stories being included. Another thing I wanted to note is that I did take some buildings from a few creators. So first, this right here, it's huge right now, but if I go into my blueprints, it is this custom Asian roof set, and I believe I downloaded this from, yes, Silverette back in 2016. And I did use these pieces to make these roofs, as well as all these roofs in this area. So it's not completely my creation. I did take the roof pieces and heavily customize them, but these are just the in-game roofs with some pieces. So try to cut down on the number of pieces used while I use the in-game roof piece. And another creator was Euthris. So this is from his Air Temple Island build. I think I'm gonna link both projects in the description so you guys can see where I got these. You can see it right here, as well as here, and right here. But then again, I just heavily customized them for this park's needs. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And not everything is entirely mine, but most of it is.
If you made it to this part of the video, I want to remind you to drop a like if you enjoyed your time here, and if you'd like to catch the next one, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to get notified on when the next episode does come out. Also, a big thank you on being super patient with me as I've been working on these episodes, as well as the huge amount of support that I've been receiving in the last few weeks. But aside from that, that's all from me, friends. I hope you enjoyed, so take care, and I'll see you in the next one.